This is the Besotted Pride of West London podcast, and coming to you from, we're coming to you from London, from the virtual joint, from the sniffly virtual joint. There's all sorts of illnesses flying around at the moment now, but we still managed to get ourselves out and potted ourselves right up, and me in North London and Laney in the Egyptian village. He's got himself back down to South West London now, and we're sitting down here just pontificating on what happened last weekend when Brentford were not up for the cup. However, this weekend we can actually make a right dent into the Premier League, as we've got the Muff, Bourne-Muff, coming down to New Griffin Park. My name's Billy Grant, and like I said to you, I've got Mr. Laney in the house. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I think, it's a good job you can't catch germs down the ether, isn't it, on the internet, because our listeners will be getting our colds. I'm coughing, you're sniffing. Yeah, it's a lot of it around, mate. But looking forward to getting out into the West London fresh air tomorrow evening for the visit of the Muff.
The Muff, yes, indeed. Well, the struggle is on, but listen, we go ahead because we are bees and we're there. Through thick and thin, as they say. Well, almost anyway. But anyway, listen, we've got quite a few things that we're going to talk about. Maybe a slightly truncated podcast compared to last week, which was quite a long podcast, as we did in the Blue Orchid in Ruislip and also over in Egypt as well, which is probably as random as they get for podcasts. But this time, we probably like to see slightly truncated because we look. Well, tell you something, what do we have to talk about this week? Yeah, there are things to talk about, but to be quite honest with you, we need to focus on one thing, get back to the Premier League, because if the team aren't up for the cup, then we're definitely not up for the cup. So transfer window has opened, as we know. We brought in a player called Kevin Schade, who we saw on Saturday. We'll talk about him in a little bit when we talk about the West Ham game. However, it's not only players that come in at Brentford for the transfer window, there's also players that go out, and there's a big rumour, I think a very strong rumour, as they say, that Sergi Canos could be on his way out of New Griffin Park. That's kind of sort of tugged a few strings with people, hasn't it, Laney?
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a sad day. Let's be honest. Sergi Canos is a player who's shared in pretty much all of the journey, really. He scored the goal, the first goal in the Prem, and he was scoring goals in the build up to us getting promoted. He's become Brentford through and through, and his enthusiasm, his love of Brentford Football Club is kind of matched by the fans themselves, and we as supporters we love a player who clearly has bought into the same ethos, the non-mercenary way of looking, the attitude where he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's ramping the supporters up and literally putting his body on the line. He's been unfortunate with a lot of injuries, which kind of probably has kind of contributed to where we are now, where he does need to be playing regular first team football. He's still a more than capable player at this level, but it's probably like Brentford have moved on a little bit, and he needs another opportunity, probably, whether it's his last one, but there's going to be more excitement in Sergi Canos's career, that's for sure. So if it is the end, I hope he can find a club and a set of supporters that can appreciate him.
Yeah, the rumour is that there's Spanish clubs that are looking at him. It's interesting because if you look at, and excuse me for the everybody, but there's going on. Sergi Canos, if you look at his time at Brentford, actually, it was actually, and again, like I said, we got a lot of fairly new people to support in Brentford, and also sort of kind of go back on history. So when Sergi Canos, giving them a bit of background, when Sergi Canos actually started at Brentford, it was actually a long time ago. He actually started for the Bees in 2015, okay, which is, we're 2023 now, so that's actually 8 years ago, which in modern footballing terms is actually a really long time because, as you know, players don't necessarily stay with clubs for very long. And it was the season where it's in the sort of kind of our second season in the Premier League, 2015. In the Championship. Apologies. Yeah, it's the second season in the Championship. The first season in the Championship with Mark Warburton, we got to the playoff semi-finals, which was unbelievable. Seems he'd only been there one season, just come out of the third tier, and we went straight to playoff final. And then all of a sudden, like the following, there's all shenanigans, which we won't go into again. But if you want to just go and read Laney's book, as well for a start, and they'll give you the background and all the shenanigans that took place in and around the end of that season, that Championship playoff final season. The following season, we got in a new manager who didn't last very long. Okay, but we also brought in a whole heap of new players, like literally like a truckload of players. And Sergi Canos was one of the truckload of players that we brought in that season. And then we realised that we had to integrate him into the side, which we found out in our inexperience at the time. That was actually a difficult task to do, bringing in 15 odd players, a lot of them that had played internationally, and trying to integrate them into the side. Now, he'd actually come from Liverpool. He was actually in Liverpool's academy, and we brought him in. And he came into the side, and then he made his debut. Do you remember? He made his debut against Nottingham Forest at home. Do you remember who he actually yes. It's actually, no, it's Leeds actually at home. Do you remember who he came on for?
I don't know. No,
you're going to laugh because again, it's another blast from the past, Laney.
Wasn't Bob Booker, was it?
No, you're close though. It's quite a Bob Booker-ish. It's Philip Hoffman as well.
Right.
Yeah, and interesting as well. And that's that 1-1 draw that we had with Leeds actually early on in the season, which was we were quite surprised. We were very happy with actually because and Leeds were very unhappy with that one as well. And then he scored his first goal for us a few months later against. Do you remember what team it was at home? If I remember rightly, but it was at home. Do you remember what team that he scored his first goal against?
I'm failing in the Sergi Canos quiz. Clearly, no, I don't remember, Bill.
Just pick one out of the blue. Doesn't matter.
Preston.
Preston's not bad. Nottingham Forest, actually. He scored against the Forest. And they've held it against us ever since, I think. But in that time, that was kind of in between time between Dijkhuizen, the manager, and then obviously we had Dean Smith coming in. And then when Dean Smith came in, he put him under his wing, and then that's when he started to get regular play in the side. That was it. And then I think a few months later was when he scored that goal that everyone that sings about, ooh, Sergi Canos, ooh, I want to know. Well, you scored that goal, and he scored that goal against Reading, which, if I remember,
I knew that one.
And notice I didn't even ask you. Just after Christmas, I think it was, around about the 28th or 29th of December as well. And that's kind of where he got his kind of sort of hero status off the back of that goal. But that because that Sergi Canos period. You must remember it quite well, don't you, Laney? Because that was like the first period when we started to kind of slowly get into championship life.
Yeah, you're right. Sergi does talk. Myself and Tim Street interviewed Sergi Canos back in the summer for the Brentford Revolution book, which in brackets, I've just dropped some more off at the club shop yesterday. So pop in tomorrow if you haven't got it, Amazon or through the Legends Publishing.net website, plug over, and he said it was kind of like a chaotic background. Brentford needed him more than he needed Brentford in that moment, I think. Yes, we provided championship game time, but I don't think it was kind of like a stable stepping stone for him, and which probably almost definitely led to why he chose Norwich City over us to kind of for a permanent deal. Yes, he came back, but Brentford had moved on by that stage, and we were clearly building under Dean Smith, and he talks about how that the atmosphere when he came back, it was a very different club. So so people do talk about Brentford's rise as if it's been kind of seamless. It has, if you look at over a 10-year period, but it did splutter, which is inevitable. You can't get everything right, and you can't turn what is a very mediocre lower league club, which is what we were, into one of the most talked about clubs in world football, which is what we are now, and a progressive outfit which is kind of using knowledge and data from top to bottom to bring the success. So we couldn't get it all right, but Sergi proved that there was a transition, and we were at that that snapshot in time, we weren't doing it all right. And then when he came back, we went on the road to doing that. And if you've spoken to Sergi, or you've listened to his interviews, or you've read interviews with him in whatever outlets, he's really really clever guy. He's a real thinker of the game. He's a lover of the game, and he will know that he's good still, which it isn't an ego thing with him, but he can be playing at the top level in any other league probably apart from this one. This one's brutal, and it's sad, but it probably is time for Sergi to seek pastures new.
I mean, just going back still into Sergi history, I mean, like I said to you, he left the Bees to go to Norwich City, which we gutted, actually. I mean, he was on loan to us and he went back to Liverpool. And in the end, we thought, oh, God, we're doing so well. He's going to come back to Brentford because he loves it here, because he really did love it. Those are badge kissing and everything like that. And then he went to Norwich, and we were gutted when he went to Norwich. And then he went to Norwich, and they never played him. They never played him at all. And he was like in the reserve, and he was in the reserve side, and he was going all sorts of different places. But the funny thing was, at the time, do you remember, he was like kept on liking Brentford tweets, and everyone keeps going, why is Sergi Canos like liking Brentford tweets and sort of kind of commenting on Brentford stuff if he's so happy at Norwich? And I think eventually people are sort of sending him messages going, come home, Sergi. And he kind of responded to them, and people started getting excited, thinking he wants to come home. He wants to come home. So it was only, I think, 6 months later after he signed for them, we actually got him back, and we signed him in the January. And we got him for about 2.5 million, I think it was, which is the price that we sold him for. So to save face, we had to give Norwich the same money that they bought him for, even though we probably could have got him for cheaper, because they obviously didn't want him. And then, like I said, and he made his debut. But during that year, he had one game, which was like the game which fans remember him for. And I'm going to ask you again, lady, do you remember which game that was?
Was it Burton away?
It was Burton away. It was amazing. It was amazing, because what happened was we went up to Burton, and Burton were like, this little, we don't want to do teams like Burton because everyone does that on us, but it was a bit of a team like Burton moment. Everyone went up to Burton because it was a game where no one had been to Burton before, and Burton were like a lower league side. They had terraces, they had like, little breweries, in the town of Burton and everything like that. So everybody turned up for Burton. It was a great day out, and we thought we were going to go there. We thought we were going to turn them over, and before you knew it, we were 3-1 down. To Burton, and we was like, oh no, we're 3-1 down at half time to Burton, and we thought, how could we be 3-1 down to Burton? So I know some people who even listened to this podcast who decided to leave, and they left, and they went back to the pub, and they went back to the breweries, and they had gone. And when we turned up at the breweries at full time, and they said, oh, how'd it go then, Bill? And we just went, we won 5-3. And Sergi Canos scored 2 goals in that. He was like, no, you're joking. So it was hilarious. So it was a brilliant game, winning 5-3 after being 3-1 down. Sergi Canos scored 2 goals. It was absolute carnage on the terraces. And the thing that everyone really remembers, because at that time, Sergi Canos had a restaurant in Liverpool, which we were going to go to when we played Liverpool, till we found out it was closed down. We were gutted. And he had this restaurant in Liverpool, his family restaurant in Liverpool. So he often go back to Liverpool to go to see his family and go and be in the restaurant. And so he, instead of going with the team, as you do, he decided to go back to Liverpool on the train. So he's turned up on the platform on the train with loads of Brentford fans, and you'll see it, just go onto Facebook or wherever, Google or YouTube, and you'll see loads of fans singing with Sergi Canos on the platform at Burton, going absolutely ballistic, taking photographs of them, singing with him, and he looks really confused, like a little sort of 10-year-old kid, doesn't he, lady?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he looks a lot younger. He still looks young now, but he's young now. But he that's that enthusiasm, and he was like absolutely loving it. And I think that's the there's analogies with a lot of players that have left us. A lot of our really talented, skillful, kind of exciting players that have gone on to big moves. They regret leaving quite quickly. You take a successful player out of the Brentford ecosystem and put them in a team that's completely separate, set up in a completely different way, different coaching methods, different ethoses. It isn't the same, and they're not as successful. I think maybe it was fortunate that Sergi had his kind of out of Brentford experience before he really established himself as a pro. He kind of like made it was a mistake, but we understand why he made it. Norwich were a team that was probably going to go up into the Prem that season, and they were obviously going to pay him a lot more money than us. But I think he saw that the grass isn't always greener, and there's a lot of players that have left us that would say the same. They may have got a big paycheck, but their careers have kind of like not faltered, but they've not carried on in that same trajectory while we've kicked on. And that's part of our the way we're set up. We have to sell to get the money in, but so we wouldn't have kept everyone. But Sergi, he saw that, and there was an opportunity for him to come back, and that's where he really did cement himself with the fans. He'd already done a lot of good work, showing his potential, but this is where he started to deliver, and it's where Brentford emerged as one of the strongest clubs in the Championship over several years, and in the end, you could argue it was one season too late that we went up, but really, we all know that everything for a reason, and it was Sergi was there for the final at Wembley. He was back after his injury, and he had a really good game against Swansea, and he was there for the never to be forgotten night against Arsenal a couple of months later.
Yeah. I'm just going back to this as well because Sergi, because it's just interesting to just think about Sergi as the player, because he has been for us for a long time, and it was really weird when we sort of looked at our players and we thought actually Sergi is like the senior player. When we got to Premier League, he's like the most senior player in our side, which is quite a weird thing considering he was so young at the time. You think that he's a little kid. He, after that sort of Burton season, he had that ankle injury where he was kind of out for quite a bit of the season. And then when he came back, there's kind of an argument to say that he wasn't quite the same player that he was before he got that injury. Then after that, as Thomas Frank came in as well, he started to change things around again. He started to trying to find position for him, and he kind of tried him up front, tried him at the wide, and then he ended up playing him as a fullback as well. And that was kind of almost like the new Sergi, where Sergi has sort of turned into a bit more of a sort of utility player as opposed to, the player that was basically bombing it down the wing.
Yeah. I mean, as players do get older, they read the game better as well, and I think that's probably an example of using his experience in an intelligent way. We do, when we play with wing backs, we do expect our players to bomb on and use their speed as well. Sergi's tackling is notorious. He's always got a booking in him. He's not. He does put a tackle in, and he's more physical than a lot of people give him credit for. But he's not a natural tackler, and he's often late, as we saw. But probably the Leeds game, the last game of the season, in our first season in the Prem, that kind of like showed up both sides of his game. Really good reading how the attack was going to play out, arrived at exactly the right time to head the ball beautifully into the corner, but within a minute he's celebrated the goal and got a book in, and then he's put a tackle in and got sent off. Sergi runs on adrenaline, and long may that continue. But he is one of the most experienced players in that team, and that's probably why he deserves to go and to use that experience. Sitting on the bench must be frustrating for him, but I'm not sure Thomas Frank should be making any other decision than the ones he's been doing. It's right that Sergi looks for a club that can match his enthusiasm and experience with another challenge. He's got several years left in his tank, and hopefully he can go back to Spain and go back with a real well-earned reputation, because he's certainly done nothing wrong, and he's got everything to be proud of.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about Sergi as if he's gone, because obviously, just to emphasise, he has not gone. We're talking from a besotted sense to say that it looks like Sergi will be moving on, but things may happen that he might not be moving on. However, let's just say that if he does go, Laney, and maybe we should be doing this a couple of weeks' time, but let's just do it now, because we lost against West Ham, and we don't really want to talk about that. Give me a Sergi Canos moment, which is like your kind of like your highlight moment. And it could be either playing on the pitch, it could be off the pitch, it could be anything that he's done at any stage at the time that he was Brentford that you remember, you go, that's Sergi Canos moment.
I'm gonna say Blackburn Rovers game in the build up, when the G-Tech New Griffin
COVID.
Park had first opened. Yeah, a few of us were allowed back in for the games, and it was his first game back. And he scored and he broke down. He was crying in the corner, and it just showed how much he wore his heart on his sleeve. A lot of players that would have masked that. They would have, they would have disguised it some way, but he felt confident and comfortable enough to share that with his fellow pros, and the fans were there. If you didn't love him already, there's everything you needed to know about Sergi was right in front of you. He cared so much, and obviously he thought his career was finished. And as a slight aside to that, when I sat down with him at the Jersey Road training grounds, I'll put this picture up later on. There's a scar on his knee, which is quite gruesome, which would have been from that injury, and then the surgery where they opened his knee up like properly, and it's right there. It's a scar to prove how much he's put in and out of the pain for coming back from that, and the dedication. A few years ago that would have been a career ender, and he's back as a top flight athlete, scoring goals for Brentford in the top flight. It's incredible. So yeah, for me, the Blackburn Rovers goal where he showed the world how much he cared.
Yeah, I mean that was a great goal, and I think it's probably quite important to emphasise the fact as well that he was getting quite a lot of abuse in and around that time from Brentford fans as well, who didn't think he was good enough, and he was getting, it was really, obviously he hadn't come back the same player that he was before, and he was getting quite a lot of abuse, and he actually really took that to heart as well. So it's good to see that he eventually turned that around, and he became a player who became a staple squad player who came out and delivered. I mean, asking me what the moment is, I mean, obviously we had the Reading goal, which I actually missed because I was actually on Christmas holiday at that time, so I didn't see it myself. Obviously the goal he scored against Arsenal, which was magnificent. Burton was up there properly. That was properly up there. But I have to say the moment is when he was in the bench against Leeds United, and the ball came into the bench. We were beating them 1-0 up at Leeds, and the ball came in, and the Leeds player tried to get it. I think it was Alioski tried to get it, and then Sergi Canos sort of hit the ball, and then he kind of headbutted him, but he didn't badly headbutt him. He kind of did this little headbutt thing, and they kept the ball and threw it. Him and Thomas Frank between themselves, and Thomas Frank was the assistant manager at the time. They kind of sort of kept the ball between themselves, and they sort of threw the ball away. And that for me sort of epitomises sort of kind of Sergi sort of kind of just getting tucked in. And then last season as well, he scored a goal against them, and then he ran right up to their end, and he had his arms out wide, just like what Maupay does as well. So I thought that was actually very funny, and the Leeds fans have never forgotten that moment as well, as they never do, because that's what they're like. So listen, good little reminisce there on Sergi Canos, who is still with us. I have to.
Yeah, you got to say, if he didn't want to go and play regular football, I'm sure there could have been a coaching role at some stage, but you could see him fitting into the B team the way Sam Saunders is doing. If Sam ever goes off to become a full-time head coach somewhere else as a stepping stone to take his career on, Sergi was a player that could slip in there, but he's too young probably, and there's too much ability still. So maybe that happened at some stage in the future too. Maybe this is adios but not farewell.
Indeed. So talking about B team actually, Laney, because I got a little message actually very early this morning from one of my Shrewsbury massive. If you again listen to podcasts for down the years, you used to know that I used to go to Shrewsbury every other week, and I used to have a right old laugh up there. And I've got a little network of characters up in Shrewsbury, and he messaged me, James, and he said, "Oi, I've just been looking at the Brentford B team. I don't notice that your team's full of ex-Premier League sort of stars, kids." He goes, "Is this a strategy or something?" And and what he's talking about, obviously we've got Kevin Lisbie, his son, is playing for us. Kevin Lisbie used to play for Charlton, and who else did he used to play for as well?
Lisbie, Orient.
Orient, that's right. I used to know him when he played for Orient, played against us quite a lot, against Orient as well. So we got Kevin Lisbie's son, and then we got Paul Dikov, his son, and Paul Dikov used to play for Laney.
Dikov used to play for Arsenal, Man City, Oldham. Did he play for Oldham
right.
as well?
He played for Oldham as well. Yeah, and then we've got David Beckham's son as well. And I've never heard of him, but David Beckham. Who did he used to play for, lady?
Not sure, mate. Was it, no, was it old shot?
He actually played for Preston North End. If a lot of you out there did not know,
Oh yeah.
that's
Preston,
right.
yeah.
So he's Preston North End, a bit of Man United, and a few other teams out there as well.
Was he on
So
loan or something? Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So David Beckham's son Romeo has been signed up to the B team. We got Kyrie's Lisbie as well, who has been signed to the B team, and also this is actually a while back actually, but it's also we've got Max Dikov as well, who's signed for the B team. So we've got these 3 players signed for the B team now. I'll ask the question, Lane. We don't know because you haven't really seen them play, and I know that Mr. Romeo Beckham, he started off just training with the B team. The MLS season had finished. The Beckhams had come over from America to come over here. They thought, let's go down to Brentford. Let's have a bit of a training, son down there, just train with them. But no signing up. Just let's train with them. And he's training with them for a couple of months. Next minute, bang, he's been signed up for the B team. Now, you've got the Dikov, Lisbon, Beckham scenario going on. Do you think that there's a kind of marketing ploy behind here? Or do you think that our B team and the club are seriously signed these players because they are good players? Because, there's rumours, coming back from the MLS. I've got a few MLS characters that I know the MLS quite well. And obviously, the Beckham is linked to Miami down there. And they were like going, Romeo Beckham. I mean, he's not. It wasn't all that, I mean, I think his brother, is it Cruz? It was actually the better footballer out of the 3 of them. Apparently, I think there's 3 of them. And so they were quite surprised that Brentford had got involved, but maybe they saw something that other people hadn't.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm not going to buy into that. How much is David Beckham paying Brentford for his son to be with us? A couple of people, a couple of my chums, of other clubs, have kind of gone, "Oh, what's all this about?" I think he's obviously got raw ingredients there. He's got in his DNA. There's a lot of sons from ex-pros that make it to the top flight, whether that be contacts, which obviously plays a massive part in that, but obviously just having been brought up by a pro footballer, they know what you should be doing and how to make it in the game. So I'm not going to buy into the conspiracy theory that he's only there because of the name that we could possibly sell on the back of some shirts if he ever plays for the first team. It's exciting. It's a great talking point. Seeing the press clips of David Beckham kind of breaking into Dartford or wherever it was the other night where the B team were playing, and kind of trying to look incognito and not being mobbed. He's always going to be in the shadow of his dad, unfortunately. When he signed, his dad was there. I mean, all the things that a dad would do. And I've not really talked about this before, but my son was particularly good when he was a 7-8, when he was signed for Chelsea's academy, and he was in the same team as Drogba's son, Lineker's son, Dennis Wise's son, and obviously they saw me after my performance at Griffin Park that time and thought this kid's probably got it, but no, I mentioned that because you realise that how full academies are of sons of other players, previous players and pro players, because they all want to see, is he as good as his dad? David Beckham's obviously seen him out in Miami, which you could throw at him. He's only there because it's his dad's team. But now he's actually, proving that he's good enough for our B team. So I'm excited to see how the story develops. It's interesting. It's buying us column inches. It's we'll probably be an OK magazine as much as we'll be in 442. It's always going to be, is his dad there, and there'll be photographs or what have you. But I don't see we can lose out of this. It's not as if we've signed him for the A team and heap pressure on him. It's a B team signing, and if he can prove his worth, then there's a pathway there. Good luck to him.
Yeah, and just coming back to my note is my mate Woody, who's actually based over in LA as well. And Woody used to work at the company that I set up as well. Woody, he used to do all our video stuff. Like good guy, Woody. Anyway, and he said to me, I had a kick around with all three Beckham lads, as you do. And it was Cruz that was rather impressive. He said Romeo wasn't bad, but the youngest one was doing the step overs and was flying down the wing, and that's Cruz. He goes, Brooklyn, however, was probably about as good as me, is what he said. So I think that gives you a pecking order on the Beckhams. Like, it's the Cruz, then it's the Romeo, and then it's the Brooklyn in that order. But then things may have changed over time because, as you know, players when they're young, they improve as they get older as well, and they get wiser in the game. So anyway, we'll see how that sort of pans itself out over the next few weeks and the next few months. And I'll tell you what was interesting as well. Welling is hilarious because people are Welling. They normally get a crowd. I think their record crowd was 120 before that B team game, and they had a crowd of 550. Like, what I'm saying, they sort of quadrupled, nearly 5 times as big a crowd as they normally have down there. So that goes to show you there is definitely some pulling power in the Beckham as it goes. So anyway, just quickly, Laney, as well, I want to talk to you about the West London Mini League as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that's been going for a while, and the fact is that the problem we got the Mini League is that we have to look down quite low to see where QPR are, but we need to keep them in there anyway. So they're in there. So you've got a 1, 2, 3, and then you've got a 4. Sort of shouting down to number 4. So we got this, but there's been sort of some movement in the West London.
But they're in the Premier League, are you? Yeah.
They're not in the Premier League, Laney. I don't know if you know.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
No.
Right.
Queen Spartan Rangers are not in.
So where are they then?
They're in the Championship. They've been in the Championship.
But so the top of the Championship, yeah.
Well, they're depends on what you call the top.
So they're going for their traditional 15th place finish in the Championship. Yeah, so
that is correct.
They're doing well.
They're not doing too bad. But listen, this is important. The West London Mini League, always been at the top of the roost has been Chelsea. And then it was kind of Fulham were after them, then it was QPR, and then it was Brentford. And then, Fulham did what they did, and we kind of sort of juggled around a little bit. And then we eventually managed to sneak in there at second place in the West London Mini League, particularly after our promotion to the Premier League as well, with Fulham at third and QPR down at the bottom and fourth. I mean, they were kind of almost up at the top at one stage, but that was a long time ago. You have to go down to the Natural History Museum to try and find out the dates when that happened. But Laney, things have changed around quite dramatically this season, haven't they?
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? It's
lovely.
It's really,
I don't think lovely is the word.
No, it is for me. It's lovely. Yeah, I'm just talking. It's I grew up, with QPR in the top flight, with that, with some incredible teams, and we turned up week in, week out. When watching, with all due respect, Rotherham's and Cruz and third and fourth division.
Not Cruz Beckham though, no,
not Cruz Beckham, no. Third and fourth tier football, while they were in the top flight, some of the best Liverpool teams in history were playing 4 or 5 miles up the road from us, and it did make you question your sanity. I mean, obviously you're Brentford through and through, and it was never an option to switch just because there was better football up the road. But now the roles have been completely and utterly reversed, and it's very hard to see, how QPR kind of do the phoenix from the flames. So they've stabilised in the Championship, but every time it seems to be getting better. The manager goes or players get signed, and they are going to lose. They've got some really good players in that team, but I'm sure they're going to get plucked because it's clear QPR aren't ready or aren't going to go up anytime soon. Fulham are the ones that have come up. We laughed about Fulham and their kind of the sale of the century when they spent 100 and whatever million on when they got promoted a couple of years ago. Well, after they'd beaten us, and then they came straight back down again, and it was a joke. But seeing them play Chelsea last night on telly, you can't help but be impressed. I thought Chelsea were decent, to be honest with you. I don't think they necessarily deserve to lose that. Nothing's going right for them, and they sat below us in the league table.
And just quickly, and on that point, I'm just start interjection as well. And you're right, because again, I only saw the first 20 minutes, and then I saw the Fulham goal, and then I had to switch off after that. I had to admit. But then I did look at the stats today. I looked at the XG, and I thought, oh my god! I mean, Chelsea absolutely smashed them off the park. They put nearly 4. 3.5 XG to Fulham's 0.5 or something like that. But obviously Fulham must have scored with their 2, very low opportunity chances, and Chelsea must have just basically just could not score, and that the score and the question I'm going to ask just quickly. Do you think that's a Potterism? Because that Potter was very much like that at Brighton, where they used to create loads of high quality chances, but just never used to score, and the Brighton fans talk about everyone else did, and everyone says, Potter this, Potter that. And I thought, no, it's not him, it's the players' fault. But now he seems to have taken that same thing to Chelsea.
He's buying into the narrative. He's got a huge long injury list, and I thought the players, João Felix came in, I know he got sent off. I think it's just like everything's going against them, and we can snigger at it, but Potter's a good guy. It will get it right. There's too much quality there. At times they were ripping Fulham apart, and Fulham not rode their luck. Well, they did. Like Leno, he scored a couple. He made some incredible saves, and there was some quite bad misses as well. On another day they get at least a point. They probably win that. Fulham, as you say, they kind of rode their luck to a certain extent. It was a similar kind of. It was a Brentford-ish kind of performance, really. You need a lot going your way to beat these top teams, because they are blessed with quality throughout, and you need them not to be on top of their form and miss the chances they create. That's what Chelsea did. You can argue that's what we did a few times this season when we've taken on the big guys. We got although the Man City win is incredible and we played brilliantly, we had to get them on a day where they were off it. And the same against Liverpool. We did what we had to do. We stopped them playing. We can pat ourselves on the back for that, because it was brilliant coaching, it was brilliant tactics, and brilliantly executed. But we need a lot of things to combine and align for us to get these points. And it was a Fulham night last night. And I hate to say it, good luck to them. It means we've got another big West London derby next season, and the game back at the GTEC is going to be a cracker later on in the season. We owe them for that. We shouldn't have lost at Craven Cottage. We did. We got ourselves to blame for that, as much as they to credit them for some good finishing. It was a strange afternoon. So we owe them, and we need to make sure that we are pushing for that. Well, we could be the top place team in West London. You never know.
Well, okay. So at the moment, Fulham top of the Premier League mini league as it is, in 6th place with 31 points from 19 games. The goal difference of +4. Then they're above Liverpool and Brighton, but we'll talk about them because that's not West London mini league stuff. And then after that, number 2 in the West London mini league are Brentford with 26 points from 18 games. So we got a game in hand over them. So if we win our game in hand, that's a big if. Then we will be 1 point behind them. 2 points behind them. Sorry. And then we have to play Fulham in a few months' time, and then Chelsea are 3rd place in the West London Mini League. They've got 25 points as well from 18 games, so 1 point behind us. And then QPR in the Premier League. Actually, no, sorry. I've got to go into another page now to go into the Championship to find out where QPR.
Keep scrolling. Scroll down, Bill.
I'm going to keep scrolling.
Scroll down.
Keep going.
More.
QPR.
Next page.
QPR fourth in the West London Mini League, in some position in the Championship. So, and I don't think that's going to change at any time over this whole season. So it's going to be quite an interesting season. Forget about the Premier League as such. The West London Mini League is where it's at. Anyway, talk about where it's at. We'll tell you where it's not. It's definitely not about the Cup, because Brentford played West Ham on Saturday and we were not up for the Cup. We're going to go away, have a little drink, and then we're going to come back and we're going to very briefly talk about West Ham. So Saturday, Bees were not up for the Cup, and it was a bit of a strange game, it has to be said. I mean, Brentford, put out a B plus side, it's probably best to be said. And we sort of kind of played some all right football, and we kind of did some sort of all right things. And we technically probably shouldn't have ever been behind. I mean, I know Raya pulled off a couple of, not Raya, I think the goalkeeper pulled off a couple of half decent saves as well. Strakosa as well. But and then all of a sudden, Ben Rama comes on, boom, put the ball in the back of the net. We lost the cup, and then the fans just went home, and we forgot about it. And that basically just about sums it up, really, doesn't it, Laney?
Yeah, it's probably the best way to approach that. I think we always expected some changes, and we have to give players. This is the reason Sergi Canos is frustrated. You're the top pro, and you want to be involved in the game. And these are the games where you can allow the fringe players to participate. And your first choice. They've really put in a shift the last few weeks, and it's the game to rest them. Now we had Aya coming back. Where's he going to get game time? You can't put him in the B team, and you can't. You want him to be playing against your West Hams, etc., to get up to speed. So we're going to be relying on these players at stages for the rest of the season. So you can really understand it. And but unfortunately, it came hot off the back of really that Gillingham Carabao Cup defeat, where you shuffle the pack and the intensity changes, and it's not quite to the same levels as as we saw against the Liverpool game and the Man City game, and they're just not up, as you keep saying, up for it. They're not up for it as much because it isn't the magnitude's not there. You can argue whether it should be or not, but that's just the way it is sometimes, and you do see that a lot where middling Premiership clubs, they don't really put all into the FA Cup because there's bigger fish to fry, unfortunately. And we're on a run, and it was a weird game because you're right. There were positives. We were up against West Ham's full strength team, and we acquitted ourselves okay. There wasn't quite the spark there, but it allowed Sade to have his debut, and it allowed other players to come on and participate where they wouldn't have got the same chance as they would against Bournemouth this weekend. So you can see why it happens. It doesn't necessarily excuse it. I think we were good enough still to take that to a replay, but do we really want to go back to that shithole over in East London? I'd say not, but there you go. We move on.
It's funny you say that because actually within 10 minutes, the conversation was actually, oh no, if it draws, that means we got back to West Ham. I was like, oh please somebody win this game, and literally it was like everyone was just begging that someone would win this game because no one wanted to go back to West Ham in a midweek. I'm just going to make one little comment before we go and listen to what the fans had to say. Interestingly, was Strakosa. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I mean, a lot of people were sort of saying that he was obviously whinging about not getting enough game time, but then afterwards people are saying, oh yeah, then the one opportunity that he had to actually do something, he didn't actually do anything with it. Like I'm saying. So do you think that that appearance should sort of put to bed his whinging, Laney? Because the shot that he came from Ben Rama, I mean, I don't know whether or not it bent or whatever, what went on there, but he didn't move and it went in the back of the net.
Well, that wasn't the first time he would have been faced with a shot like that. I mean, they dip and they curve, and he practices with the same ball every day. You at least try and get your head in it. If nothing else, it hits you full in the face. It was right over his shoulder, and whether that's where it started or not, but the reactions of a goalkeeper, a professional goalkeeper, an international standard goalkeeper that's played hundreds of games for Lazio, you're used to that kind of situation, and you put your arm out. And if you've made an attempt to save it, then the criticism will be less. But he almost kind of just watched it go whistle past his ear. I know it's a bit further away than his ear, but he's got long arms. It's you put your arm up, so. Yeah, it was a bit of an odd one, really, because he certainly didn't come out of that exercise with flying colours whatsoever. And if you're going to jump up and down and demand game time, you don't really want to be making those errors when you get your chance.
No, right. So listen, we're going to go to the fans to hear what they had to say straight after that match.
We played all right. I didn't think we really deserved to lose. Draw 0-0 was probably about what it deserved. Good goal, had to be saved, didn't it? But we'd have taken the 3 points last week over a cup win today, as disappointing as it is. So onwards and upwards.
Some of the players that we thought, are they good enough? Can they make it? Did really well. It took an ex-beat to come on and win the game. But I thought we were the better team through most of that game. We played some really good football. I'm not unhappy about not having to go to a replay. So all good. Quite happy with that. Good performance. Some good minutes for bench play.
I think too many changes really took their toll today. You can see it was a bit of a flat performance, a tired performance. We got the first half was a pretty non-event. The second half I thought opened up quite a lot, but we just couldn't really get going. It was a bit stop and start, and you could see there's players that I hoped would kick on, like with the introduction of Damsgaard and Godos and Potter. I was hoping that they would seize their opportunity in the cup and maybe kick on and try and push for that first team place. But really, I think the changes, the cohesion between the team was a bit too much, and you could see they were struggling to find that extra pass they needed, or that bit of quality that they needed, because we definitely missed Brian today.
On a positive note, I think it was great to see the new guy come in.
Sade.
Yeah, Sade.
Smooth operator.
Your love is king.
I don't know how much football he's played recently. He looked a little bit rusty, but I like that he's running at players with the ball. He looks a bit like Scott Hogan-esque. Pick up the ball, run at players. They look terrified,
There you go, the fans talking straight after that game. Let's talk about the plus sides, okay? So the plus side, what a lot of people were actually very happy, because sometimes when you come to these matches, like you go to beating games, you go to friendly games, you go to reserve games, whatever like that. Sometimes you don't go there for the match. You don't go to see Brentford winning 7-0. You go there to sometimes see new players coming on to see what they're like. And I think that was a big upside for a lot of Bees fans on Saturday. They wanted to see this new player, Kevin Schade, who we'd signed a few days beforehand. And we weren't sure whether or not he'll get the clearance or not, but he got the clearance and he played. He came off the bench, and it has to be said, still very obviously very, very green, very rough, but he had some sparks which made us think, this is quite interesting. So, for me, first of all, you can see that he's very fast. The second thing, you see that he's not afraid to get stuck in whatsoever. And the third thing, he's not the biggest person in the world, but he's not afraid to head the ball. He literally gets stuck in with his head, and he was getting involved there, which I thought was actually really good. He plays apparently naturally on the right hand side, but he can actually play anywhere across the front three as well. So he could be a really interesting addition to the side, isn't it, lady?
Yeah, he does. He looks, as you say, very capable, and he adds to that kind of like unpredictable aspect of our game, where the players can kind of swap around and they can be interchangeable, and it confuses the life out of the opposition. We can put a through ball and he'll run onto it because he's got that blistering pace, and we can put a long ball into him, and he's got the aerial ability to, he's been described as one of the bounciest players in the Bundesliga, or the springiest. He's got, he can hang in the air, from what we hear. We'll see more of that, and he's got tricky feet, so he has got a lot of ammo we can use, because that's what we do. We know that, it's what Liverpool found out to their cost, is that we mix it up. Sometimes it's long, sometimes it's balls over the top and round the corner, and we expect our players to be decent in the air for flick-ons as well, and I'm sure they're relishing someone else to work into their patterns of play, and their practice, their training grounds drills, because he looks sharp. He's young and he's hungry. He's got a lot to prove at this level as well. It's a big money signing if the loan turns into a permanent, which it probably will, and it's good that we put him straight in. There's none of that kind of like, it might take a month or 2 months before we see He's given a chance. We do see that sometimes with new signings, especially youngsters, and he was straight in there. And I expect to see him at least on the bench on Saturday against Bournemouth.
Yeah, okay. And we had a Bundesliga writer and podcaster, Adam Kahn, who's just given us a little bit of a lowdown on Kevin Schade, because he's seen him loads and he knows a lot about him. This is what Adam had to say.
Hi everyone, my name's Adam Kahn. I'm a German football journalist. I run the German Football Weekly, which is a newsletter all about German football, which you can find on Substack. And for all my other work, you can follow me on Twitter at @AdamKahn. And yeah, it's a real pleasure to be on the podcast to talk about Brentford's new signing, Kevin Schade. He's a really exciting player coming out of the Bundesliga and also for the German youth national teams. He comes from Freiburg, came through the academy at Freiburg, and has been part of the first team since the start of last season. And in general, SC Freiburg is a really exciting destination right now. They just built a new stadium. They have one of the most enigmatic managers in all of German football in the name of Christian Streich. And in general, they're having a fantastic season. They're only 4 points behind FC Bayern in the Bundesliga, in second place right now in the Bundesliga. And they've also made it through to the Europa League knockout stages in just wildly impressive fashion. They did not drop a single defeat in their group stage, came through in first place. So, yeah, a fantastic season for SC Freiburg and fantastic player with the likes of Kevin Schade as one of them. And it's really interesting to talk about the youth development at Freiburg because they're a side whose development has really gone under the radar. They're, along with Dortmund, the only side with a U23 team in the third division. So not even FC Bayern or RB Leipzig, for example, have a U23 team that is playing in the third tier of German football. And the likes of now Dortmund's Nico Schlotterbeck, who played for Germany at the World Cup, a former World Cup winner in Matthias Ginter, who's now back to the club, but also came through the academy there and then later went on to Borussia Dortmund and Borussia Mönchengladbach. And also a splattering of players who are in the first team right now, including club captain Christian Günther, who is an absolute staple at left back, was also, like Nico Schlotterbeck and Matthias Ginter, a part of Germany's World Cup roster, and yeah, a real talisman for this national team, and of course for Freiburg as well. But back to Kevin Schade, because he's really the focus here. He's such an exciting player and one that Brentford fans have been linked to for quite some time, and yeah, it came out of the blue that they eventually got him so early in the winter, but as we said, he's a player who Brentford have been linked to for quite some time, and we're happy to get into the club now. And I think what you see right off the boat is that he's an extremely quick player. He was the 7th fastest player in the Bundesliga last season, and it shows in how he looks to go at players immediately. He doesn't look constantly for another step over, another fake, but it's a very direct route to goal, and it's something that sets him apart from a lot of other talents in the league, and something that he can definitely fall back on. But it's not the only thing that makes him so exciting. Like you said, he's very quick feet. He's also very two-footed, which makes him an ample option in his primary position at left wing, but can also be an option at right wing or even up top. And he's got a good leap on him. He's solid 6 feet tall, but again, like I said, he has a great leap, which allows him to almost hang in the air. So it feels that a player who, although he is a left winger or a winger at the moment, he's someone that could potentially be molded and developed into someone that could be a long-term replacement for Ivan Toney if he eventually is not a Brentford player beyond the season. And like we've seen from most players who excel at Freiburg, he's also a player who has a great dedication to his defensive duties. And although he's a little bit slight physically, I think that he's a player who can bring a lot to Brentford's game, both in and out of possession. But as we mentioned, he's only 21, so he's still an extremely young player. And as such, despite the steep price tag, there's still some worries that, Brentford fans should be wary of. And then amongst the biggest ones is definitely his injury track record, because it's not something that really shines brightly for him. He has been really just riddled with injuries in the last 1.5 seasons. He's missed 31 first-team games via injury. And at first we had a broken jaw and an ankle ligament last season. But the main one is what kept him out between spring and this early fall season, which was 185 days that he missed for an abdominal tear. So, it was an injury that was very difficult to diagnose and handle. And while he's back on the pitch now, it's still a slight worry that, Brentford would have definitely taken into account when making this signing. And additionally, for a player who's 21 and just the amount of talent that he has, he doesn't have the greatest goal scoring track record or just goal and assist track record at the moment. He has 5 goals and 3 assists in 29 Bundesliga games. So while a lot of these were cameos off the bench and he does look dangerous every time he takes to the pitch, he isn't necessarily the refined product that will immediately settle in this Brentford team and begin to look like one of the best wingers in the Premier League just yet. But yeah, he's a great talent, one that Brentford fans will be absolutely delighted to see, and also one that all Premier League fans will probably get a lot of joy out of. And yeah, should be a staple of this Brentford side in not too long, and also a potential option for Germany as they look to host the Euros on home soil in 2024.
So there you go, Kevin Chardin. We'll be seeing a lot more from him very recently, or very, very soon. Very recently. We saw him recently. We're going to see him very soon. Very exciting. And it's nice to see us get in the transfer market really early. There's a few other rumours flying around about Brentford as well in this window, but we'll concentrate on them maybe a little bit later when we find out if they've actually got any legs on them, because as we know, we try not to sort of concentrate on the gossip. We try to concentrate on the ones that have got legs on them. Anyway, talk about legs. JB, he's got lovely legs actually, but he's also got he's
got funky legs.
He's got funky legs actually. He's got some facts and funk, and he's got some FA Cup facts and funk for us, JB. So he's going to be talking to us about his FA Cups, facts, and funk.
You ready for this? I told you it was coming. Who? JB. And he's ready to stock it to you one time. Get it.
Hello, Jonathan Birchall here again. Saturday was Thomas Frank's 5th FA Cup third round tie, but his first defeat at this stage. Our last defeat in the third round was the season before he took over in 2018, when Dean Smith's side lost 1-0 to Notts County, in a game which saw Sergi Canos come on as a substitute, as he did on Saturday, and a debut for Emiliano Marcondes. Although we've had 3 victories over West Ham in the Premier League, we did also play them in a pre-season friendly last season in our first game at the G-Tech with an unrestricted crowd. The scoreline that day was also a 1-0 defeat, with Said Benrahma scoring, the only goal, in the second half, a long-range shot from outside the box at the east end of the ground. On the upside, we did see the first appearance of our new number 9, who was initially joined us on loan. Now, loanees are something of a rarity these days. It was only in our League One promotion season 9 years ago that we had a total of 10 players on loan. Mark Warburton was of course in charge that season, and he quietly slipped into the West Ham dugout on Saturday, now as part of their coaching staff. Next up, Bournemouth, for their first visit since that playoff semi-final 18 months ago. And it could have been a return for Emiliano Marcondes, whose last appearance for us was of course at Wembley Stadium, scoring that goal. But it's not to be, as he's just gone out on loan, back to Denmark.
There you go, JB, some FA Cup facts and funk, which leads nicely into the match on Saturday, because we're playing the Muff, Bourne-Muff. We're playing, and we played them just before the lockdown. Actually, Bourne-Muff literally have just come up to the Premier League from the Championship. We left them behind in the Championship after beating them in that marvellous game at New Griffin Park when we were 1-0 down on aggregate in the first leg of the playoff semi-final, when they allowed 4,000 fans in the stadium, and then we all turned up there, and there was like 100,000 of us in there singing away, and we went 2-0 down on aggregate in the semi-final, and then we were gutted, but we thought, tell you something, we could do this, and we started singing and getting behind the team, and we ended up winning 3-2 on aggregate with force, the force field. And also,
you feel the force.
That's right, and also Marcondes, who is he's just left us, but Marcondes scoring goals as well. And we just have to say that as well. Tip our hat to Emiliano Marcondes, who hasn't just left us, but he's left, obviously, he went to Bournemouth, ironically, and then now he's actually gone back to his Norgeland, which is where we got him from. So he's actually gone back, and he's done the full circle return, gone back to Denmark, actually, from where he was before. And obviously things, haven't quite worked out how he wanted them to work out in the UK, but he's done a job as he had to do. But Bournemouth are back in the Championship, in the Premier League from the Championship, and I think it's probably fair to say that they're struggling a little bit, aren't they? I mean, they've got a lofty position in the league, but at the moment things aren't looking too great for them.
No, not particularly. They did have a kind of a decent run of results fairly recently, like draws and a couple of wins that pulled them away from got them up into mid-table rather than the relegation pack. They're kind of slipping back into that, and there's a lot of pundits, lots of observers saying that they'll put up a good show this season, but they will be part of the relegation trio that go back down. It's certainly not over. As we know this season, it's a lot tighter. There's no real breakaway three of as we saw last year, or breakaway two teams are almost certainly going to go down. It's all up for grabs still, but that you can understand why people are still saying they're almost certs for relegation, because it's just not quite enough about them. They're good at what they do, and that's not really a dig at them, because we know that you have to be good at what you do, and being good at something is better than being good at nothing. So it does put them in with a shout in some games. We have to be really wary of them. You could argue, well, it was a 0-0 draw down at Dean Court, Vitality, whatever you want to call it. It was a game they could have won, a game that we could have won too. 0-0. It was a poor advert for Premier League football. We said at the time it was it looked like it was League One when we walked out of the ground. So they are picking up points, and we have to be aware of what they the threats that they pose. But if we're anything like we have been in the league recently, we should be too strong. I don't know how Thomas Frank's gonna guarantee it, but we have to be properly on it, because we have seen when the lesser in brackets teams come
and Leicester,
we don't put in the same intensity as we do when the biggies come down. And of course, that is football. That is part of human behaviour. You're not be up for Bournemouth as much as you're going to be up for Man City. It's obvious, but we have to get close to that, because there's 3 points there, 3 really big points that can push us even further up the table. We don't really we joke about we're all going on a European tour. We could be. It's all possible. So I don't know what bigger incentive there is than to go out on Saturday and to stamp our authority and to shine. Shada, I'm hoping starts. I'm not sure if Tony's gonna be anywhere in contention for this. I'm assuming not. It could be a really potent, exciting young forward line. As I say, I'm really looking forward to the game tomorrow.
Yeah, talk about European tour. If you go and check out James Alcott, I appeared on James Alcott's little fan channel this week. Actually, you can check it on YouTube, and he did a all Premier League fans have to give their heart and their head prediction on where they're going to finish this season. So I've done it for Brentford Besotted as well, but also all the other fans done as well. So it's really good to get an idea of where the fans see themselves finishing this season. Like I said to you, are there going to be more European tours? Let's put the question mark there. I'll put that in in the information box down here as well. But anyway, listen, talking about Bournemouth, we're going to go to Kirk from Cherries Red Army, and he's going to give us the lowdown on Muff.
Hi guys, thanks for having us on your really, really good podcast. Kirk here from Cherries Red Army, the YouTube channel for AFC Bournemouth. And an interesting fact, I suppose, about myself is that I once shared a pitch twice with club legend Mark Pugh. What a guy, what skills. Now a very good chef. Brentford Bournemouth this weekend. I tell you what, I don't want this game. I mean, I'm going to the game. I'm looking forward to visiting your new stadium, but the fixture itself in the finer details, it scares me a little bit. From a Bournemouth point of view, an overall season rating I'd probably say is about a 6. I'd just nudge over half, which is a bit bonkers really, because we've never been in the relegation zone. The players we added probably still leaves us as the weakest squad in the league. And our task would have always been to finish 17th, to just reinstate us back into the Premier League and get a few seasons under our belt. But it has been a bit of a roller coaster. When's it not? Being an AFC Bournemouth fan, we had the Scott Parker circus when he got sacked after the 9-0 defeat. We had the little club bounce that got some results on the board, including an unbeaten 6-game run when Gary O'Neill was interim. We've had a takeover from Bill Foley, Las Vegas consortium, billionaire, self-made billionaire, who's promised big things for us to change the infrastructure, build a new training ground, new stadium, potentially within 5 years, and add money in the pot for January. Yet to do anything in January, but money's apparently in the pot. So why have I chosen 6 as a rating? Because as much as it's great to have this new ownership, you would think that we would start to maybe think a little bit bigger in our minds and change our mentality and move away from that small club mentality to we could potentially go places, and maybe it's the right time to do it now. But then you hire Gary O'Neill as permanent head coach, someone who's never been a manager, and an interim under pressurised job is not the same as a job being the main man. And not earning any stripes, not having any real life experiences for me was always a concern. And I don't think you can wing or blag top level elite management or the Premier League. That seems to be the case, because since we've come back to football after the World Cup, even though we had a good result against Everton before the break, that 3-0 win against a poor Frank Lampard team, since we've come back, we've not won a football match. It's 5 losses in all competitions, 2 cup losses against Newcastle and Burnley, and 3 losses in the Premier League without even scoring a goal. A pragmatic approach that lacks very much attack, a manager that's clearly struggling to find an identity, a team that's no longer buying into whatever Gary O'Neill's trying to achieve. And that's leaving the fan base and the club a little bit disconnected, and the club a little bit silent at the moment, because clearly we don't have a plan alternative. And what do you do now? Sack Gary O'Neill and have 3 managers in a season? Well, some fans would say yes. Some fans would say that's the hand we've played. We've now got to dig in deep and somehow pull something out the bag. For me, either Gary O'Neill needs to be a genius, or we need some serious lady luck. And that doesn't normally align with Bournemouth either. For Brentford, I think they're a very good team. I think Brentford have a very good progressive model. Somehow, you've got yourself in a position, not somehow, very well, that you've got yourself in a position where you're competing inside the top 10. In your recent form, of the last 6 games, you're unbeaten in 6, and you've disposed of Liverpool and Manchester City. You have a team that's dedicated. You have very good individuals within that team. Thomas Franks, no matter what you think about him, has an identity. The fans seem to be absolutely behind everything that you do on the pitch, off the pitch. It's a model that I'm definitely envious of. And you can only credit Brentford for having a good Premier League season last season. And in the second-year syndrome that sometimes happens to football clubs, doesn't seem to be happening to you. And that's because I think you've got a very good plan, model, manager, and you pick up enough good results and performances to comfortably keep you in this league. Players that I am worried about going into this game in your team, I think you have a good goalkeeper. You have a solid defender in Ben Mee, who has a lot of Premier League experience. Norgard, I think, is your captain, and he's at the heart of what you do. And a player that shows a lot of grit from what I've seen, a lot of battle. You've got Henry, who's a young player off the left-hand side. And Bomo's caused us problems in the past, and someone who presses from the front. And if we are too slow with the ball at the back, I do worry we can get caught out. And if Ivan Toney's fit, which I was hoping he wasn't, he's got some off-field issues, but it wouldn't be surprised if he is fit for this game. I would not be surprised, and I'm hearing he might make it. And that's something I really didn't want to see, and something we really don't need as a football team right now, is to come up against an Ivan Toney who puts his weight around and is very good in front of goal. One of our tasks if Ivan Toney's on that pitch is not to concede a penalty, because he is absolutely ruthless from 12 yards. Players for Bournemouth this weekend who might be available, unavailable will probably be Neto still, our Brazilian goalkeeper. Travers is not quite found the form that he did in the Championship last season, but I think the fans are still very much behind him. Adam Smith is suspended. Marcus Tavernier is a massive loss for us, one of the best dribblers in the league, someone who is our most creative player, top assists, definitely hit form before that World Cup. So to lose him for a long spell is very difficult for us. And then it's what we do at the back, because we could match Brentford with a back three and a 5 and a 1-1. And that's how I think Brentford set up, in a 3-5-2. Bournemouth fans might be slightly concerned with this, because a back three is not normally a formation that we do well in. We've tried it many times under different managers and we get the odd win out of it, but generally it's a formation we struggle with. So do we fall back into a back four, which is more comfortable for us when we're flowing and in form, but we're currently not. But it is a more comfortable formation for us, so it could be something like a 4-2-3-1. You could see our captain Lloyd Kelly pushed out to left back, because he's really struggling at centre back, although Lloyd Kelly has expressed many times before that he does not want to be a left back, but his form currently at centre back after returning from injury is not great. So I can definitely see him being pushed to left back with Senesi and Mepham at centre back. It'll probably be Lerma and Kirk billing ahead, potentially Ryan Christie off the right, Jayden Anthony off the left, and Dom Solanke. Kiefer Moore could be a question mark as well. But we're not a team that's firing on all cylinders. We are a team that very much set up to consolidate and hit on the counter. The issue we have is we don't have a lot of pace in the counter, and we're not currently ruthless enough. So looking at Brentford's form, you generally score 2 goals in a game. So I am going to predict a 1-1, which is not against your form, but I don't see us scoring 2 goals. So if I'm going to be optimistic as a Bournemouth fan, I'm going to hope we can get out of there with a draw. I don't see us scoring 2 goals, so I'm going for a 1-1. But as I said, I've only seen a handful of results for Brentford where you've scored less than 2. And even when you've lost to the likes of Aston Villa comfortably 4-0, you've bounced back and hit some form again and reacted and got results on the board. So there's my score prediction in there, nice and early. It's a massive game for Bournemouth. It's a critical period, season defining, some will say, with Forest coming straight after this, and the club still hanging on that Gary O'Neill is the right man and can turn results around and performances around and try and keep us out of the relegation zone. Because if we lose at Brentford and we don't get something against Forest, we are then in the relegation zone, and it will be a really big ask to get ourselves out of it, because the calendar does not look easy. When does it look easy in the Premier League? Thanks for having us on this preview on your podcast, though. Looking forward to coming to the ground, looking forward to the game, hoping Bournemouth can turn up, hoping we can show something about ourselves and the fans can be up for it. And you never know, football can throw in surprises. It might have to be if we're going to get a point, but hopefully we'll enjoy the game and we'll have a good battle. Cheers guys, and we'll see you soon.
So there you go, Kirk from Cherries Red Army. To be fair, he's always got a little twinge of optimism there, but it's a tough season for them. I know they've got a bit of investment coming from the Americans, I think it is. The Americans, but will that be? Will they make that in time? Will they spend anything? And even if they do spend anything, will it make any difference in this period of time? I know that O'Neill, their manager, like I said to you, he did all right as a caretaker, but I think, it seems like the gloss is wearing off a little bit, and I think the fans are getting a little bit peeved off. And one of my mates, Russ the Carew, who's down there in Bournemouth as well, he just said he's not even coming up. He just says we're terrible. He goes, and they're depressing, and I don't want to watch them. And I'm like, support your team, Russ. But anyway, listen, other people have got other things going on, but we shall see, because we cannot take anything for granted. There's a couple of things about the Muff, actually, just want to sort of bring up here, Laney. First of all, their style of football. Okay, I'm just looking here for the style of football for the Muff is so Bournemouth strengths. This is from Who Scored. The team have no significant strengths. Okay, and their weaknesses: defending the attacks down the wings, keeping possession of the ball, very weak. Protecting the lead, very weak. Avoiding fouling in dangerous areas, very weak. Defending set pieces, very weak. They play long ball with width, and in their own half. So that's the style of football that they play. Looking at 5:38, which, like I said to you, we look at every now and again, but we're looking back just to give a little bit of a vibe. It's interesting because Bournemouth were actually predicted to be out of the relegation zone for quite a bit, actually. I mean, their league position, I think they'd almost got nearly as high as 10th at one stage, but if you looked at some of the stats companies, they were actually felt that they were punching. Actually, they were actually overperforming, and they felt that that would drop away after time, and it looks like that is starting to happen for Bournemouth. Looking at the table, Southampton bottom at the moment. They're currently on 12 points. They're predicted to finish bottom on 33 with 55% chance of relegation. Bournemouth is currently on 16 points. They're predicted to finish second bottom with 33 points as well, with 57% chance of relegation. So actually, it's interesting that their chance of relegation is higher than Southampton, who they predict to finish bottom. And then Everton, they've predicted to finish third bottom on 34 points with 48% chance of relegation. Wolves fourth bottom with 45% chance of relegation, 35 points. Forest 35 points as well, with fifth bottom, 44% chance of relegation. There's a massive gap then after that to West Ham, who they currently think is going to be 16% chance of relegation on 41 points. So they think there's going to be a massive point difference between Forest and West Ham, a 6-point difference. So they're basically saying that it's those bottom five which are the five who are going to battle it out for the 3 places. The most interesting thing is Nottingham Forest getting themselves out, because they were rock bottom, probably even about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they got themselves out, and they're now actually the bottom of that 5. So that's interesting. And if you want to know about Brentford, where Brentford are, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're 10th predicted in this league with less than 1% chance of relegation. Predicted to finish on 53 points, just below, this was really bad, West Ham in the middle league, Fulham and Chelsea. Fulham, they predict, is going to get 53 as well, and Chelsea going to get 57, and just above Aston Villa and Crystal Palace. So that's getting a vibe of where it's at. But it's not about stats; it's about what you do on the pitch, isn't it, Laney?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be a bit naive to kind of ignore some of the the skill they have got in their team. Phil Billing is a really good top flight player. Dominic Solanke, he's scored lots, at the teams he's been for. Kiefer Moore, we know that he's a big lump up front, and Jamal Lowe is a player that's been buzzing around that team, and he scored goals. They do pose a threat, and I'm not gonna just go, oh, it's a home win just because we beat Liverpool, we beat Man City, we're gonna smash Bournemouth. It doesn't work like that. We saw that with Norwich last year, and we do often kind of slip up a little bit against teams that we just expect to win, and we have to break that mindset. If we are gonna progress incrementally, which I know is the objective. Every year we have to work out to get the standards high, even when the excitement levels are dipped a little bit. So yeah, I think Thomas will be hopingly firing them up and getting the mindset right, because it provides a big opportunity to kick on.
And just coming back to the match itself, just briefly, and then we'll just go in and listen, and then we'll finish this up, because listen, we've talked all we need to today. This game, if anything, you think the bonus is for West Ham now, looking back at it, we kind of played a B plus side, which means that we can, in effect, put as much as we can do a full side against Muff, on Saturday. And as we say, as much as a full side as we know, I mean, I don't know what the situation is with Ivan Toney. I know he's meant to be injured. I haven't seen him again, you might be able to tell me. I know you've been away in Egypt, but have there been any photographs of him in training as such, or kind of being thrown out there?
I've not seen any. No, I've not seen any.
So you've got to kind of presume they're either masking that one up massively, or he's not going to play. Okay, so then you've got Wisa, who wasn't great against West Ham last week, but then maybe he saves it for the big games as it is. Okay, but then obviously you've got Mbeumo coming back. Mbeumo obviously missing last week. You can see the massive difference that he makes to our side. You've got Roslev, you've got Henry. You could presume that they're going to play again. You've got Norgard back, who, if Norgard isn't playing for the side, you see what a difference that makes as well. So all of a sudden, and then you've got Jensen, who's been absolutely tremendous this season at the back. We talked about Zanka being a revelation, Ben Mee being a revelation as well, so, and then Ethan Pinnock. So looking back at that side, if we've got that team back, that is a very strong side going in against Bournemouth, and it should make us look very different to how we did against West Ham.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah, we bring a lot of talent back into the frame, and as I say, there's a big opportunity there, and I'm kind of looking forward to that.
And we won't have David Raya sort of kind of just like watching the ball go in the back of the net, hopefully.
Hopefully not. Yeah, hopefully not. Although he's due a wobbly one. His standards have been just exceptional. Goalkeepers do occasionally have fluffs. So give Stricoya some slack. Goalkeepers' errors are kind of highlighted more than anyone else's. But David Raya, he's been on an exceptional run of form. So it'd be good to have him back in the team.
That's right. So just Laney, Saturday, the Muff coming down. It's on TV. 5:30 kickoff. New Griffin Park. Give us a score prediction.
I'm going 3-1 Brentford.
Oh, and I'm going to go 3-0 to the mighty Bees. So listen,
Bill, before we head off into the sunset.
Yes.
Club issued a statement yesterday about a fan or a supporter or a person up in the northeast who has been taken to court for racially abusing Ivan Toney. What are you going to make any comment on that?
Well, as you know, I've been in the sick bed the last 24 hours, so I haven't really sort of taken in much of this news, and there's people, and I've seen people going around going, the police should be going around sort of arresting burglars and they should be doing real crimes, what this is all about. And it's kind of like, unfortunately, yes, but the thing about it is that, these things do affect people, and it's not only Ivan Toney that it affects everybody. It affects people, people like me, my daughter, her friends, when they see things like that, they're thinking, how could these things carry on? And unfortunately, the social media companies are not doing enough, because the thing is that they make so much money, and they keep talking about free speech and all this nonsense, right? Which is absolute crap and nonsense, really, because at the end of the day, it's not, because if it's illegal, it's illegal. Okay. So get you around it, but because they're making money out of it, but when they make money out of it, it's because put resource into actually make it not happen means that they're going to lose money. So in a way, they're making money out of it. And also from the reactions that we got from these things happening, they make money out of it. So that's why I don't trust these companies at all. And we kind of we got to remain vigilant and just make sure that we are ensuring that this thing doesn't prevail, doesn't carry on.
It also shows you the state of the police service. It's not either or. Police are there to investigate and prosecute all crimes. It's not like, we haven't got the resources to do this and we'll do that. And we need more police then. If one area of crime is being ignored because they're doing something else. A crime's a crime, and you expect the police to be there to investigate and protect us, no matter what that crime is.
And that's and that you're moving into another area there, Laney. Okay. A different argument where you start to
save that for another day.
You're moving into politics, and you're moving into the state of our country.
Yes.
Conversation.
Oh, talking of which, look.
Oh yeah.
They come for
you. It was you.
It's you.
It was Laney. So there you go. But anyway, listen, this is Besotted Pride of West London podcast. Thanks for listening to us. Don't forget to write us a review on iTunes, and also buy us a beer. Besotted.com/beer. Don't forget to go to besotted.com/global if you want to check us out on that. But other than that, Muff are coming down on Saturday. We're going to get some points. We're going to get up to the table. We're going to miss West London Mini League. Then Chelsea will be down below us. And we'll be below us. QPR, where are they?
Come on, you bees.
Come on, you bees.